So we've talked about the console, we've talked about variables. Now we're going to talk about strings. A string is a collection of characters. It might be letters, spaces, numbers, punctuation, and it's inside quotation marks. It can be a pair of double quotes, a pair of single quotes, or a pair of what are called backticks. You'll see them in a future video. You'll notice that I put a capital letter in the middle of my variable name when I'm really using two words. And in JavaScript, this is considered more preferred than using an underscore. You cannot use a hyphen. You cannot use a space. So this style with the capital letters, it's called Camel Case because the hump of the capital letter in the middle is like a camel hump. No spaces ever. That will never work if you're using a variable name. So if we want to push these two things together, say we're going to refer to something on screen, and so we would use their variable names, and we'd say first name plus last name, and what we get is not exactly what we want. So the way to fix this is we need to somehow get a space in between those two. And I'm using my up arrow to save time here to make it easier. What you want to do to put in a space is, you have to type a space. It's a string. You're going to add a new string in between the two strings that are already stored in variables. And then you'll get a name that looks the way you want it to look. This is called concatenation. In the Code Academy lessons, it's called interpolation. Doesn't really matter if you're going to use 4 syllables, it's adding other strings to strings. So it works really well. And we can do other things to strings. Let's look at what would happen if we took last name. And I'm hitting the tab key to save myself typing. And look, I must have already typed length at some point. If I need to get the length of a string, I can use the property .length, and I add it onto the end of the variable name and press return. So there are also methods for strings, and there's a huge list of them. Generally, you won't memorize any of these. You'll just come and look them up when you realize you have to do something with a string, like you have to cut it up, you have to rearrange it, you have to use part of it. So I'm going to take my last name string, and I'm going to apply a method to it. And you see how they pop up here. And then you can hit your tab key. Don't forget the parentheses at the end. In order to use a method, you have to have those even when they're empty. And what it gives you is, without you having to type it, it makes the entire string uppercase. Now, the actual variable, the contents of the variable, the value, was not changed. And I'm going to prove that to you with console log. So if you wanted to change the value of the last name variable, you would have to reassign it. And you would do that like this. You would apply the method to it. And now by applying the method on the right-hand side of the equals sign, you have assigned that new value into the variable, which is always on the left side of the equal sign. So if we console log now, we'll see that it's been changed to Washington all uppercase. Let's make a new one. So another method out of the many that are possible is includes. And when we use that one, we actually do have to put something inside the parentheses, and what we need to put inside is a string that we're searching for inside. So what if I want to see if the 4 letters blow are in there? Not blowing, I don't have to look for a whole word, just blow, and it comes back true. It's a quite different thing from toUpperCase. toUpperCase actually does something to the value and we can store that. In this case, we're testing, is the fragment I'm looking for contained in the string to which I applied the method includes. So there are a lot of things that you can do with strings. Because JavaScript is used with web pages, we're often saving strings and using them in our web pages.